Hello and welcome to the Hellraiser blog. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed today's Hellraiser blog, please hit the subscribe button. We love growing the Hellraiser Boxing YouTube family. Today's blog, I'm going to talk about the heavyweight scene. But just before that, big night tomorrow night for Hellraiser Boxing. Philip Bowes, who I've been working with, I've managed for a few years now. And he fights for the Commonwealth title. Phil Bowes has been like a quiet man of boxing, doing his hustle in the background. He got made mandatory for the Commonwealth some time ago, and tomorrow night he fights for the title. I really fancy his chances of winning that title, and it'd be great to have a champion in Philip Bowes tomorrow, so good luck, Philip. Okay, the blog I'm going to do today is about the current heavyweight scene. I keep seeing press releases and interviews, and to me a lot of it is smoke and mirrors, and it doesn't really make sense, and I find it entertaining, and so I'm going to cover that. I would say at the moment, at the top of the heavyweight tree, you've got Anthony Joshua, who holds a number of titles, but not the WBC title. Then you've got Deontay Wilder and TYSON FURY, who I think are almost a certainty to box a rematch for the WBC title. Probably imminently. Probably the next fight they have will be against each other. Joshua, for me, is definitely losing a lot of his credibility in the eyes of a lot of people. To me, he's still number one. I think he is the guy that everyone wants to see the second best guy fight against. And who's to say that some of them could beat him? I mean, Fury, to me, could outbox Joshua. Wilder could outpunch Joshua, could knock him out. So these are all good fights. But I think what we're going to see is we're going to see Fury-Wilder rematch. I think the second fight will sell far better than the first one. If they put it on in Old Trafford, they'll fill Old Trafford with that fight. The casinos in Vegas will be bidding for that fight, and they've got a serious amount of money behind them. Pay-per-view, I think it will be much bigger the second time around than the first time. So those two are going to fight. Let's say they're going to fight each other. Might be wrong. That's what I think. They don't seem to want to offer. I mean, whenever I've heard of offers made to Fury and Wilder, it seems like, because Warren's always talking, he's trying to get a split of the revenue, and they always seem like they just want to offer him a purse, and to do it on Sky. And I think, like Eddie Hearn, for me, he's had it quite easy in how he's come into British boxing. I mean, his dad had a Sky deal for years, and because their budget was so much bigger than everybody else's in the UK, certainly, he could just say, yeah, that's the purse. And people probably look at it, right, that's much bigger than what they've been offered previously. Great, fantastic, we'll do it. The problem that you've got now you've got, obviously you've got Eddie Hearn with Sky, you've got Frank Warren with BT Sport, you've got Al Heyman, who's now shuffling around in the undergrowth, creeping up through ITV. And I mean, that could have a major impact, because ITV in the UK, if you're not familiar with it, gets massive audience. It's got a huge share of the audience, and people will buy in their droves on pay-per-view, I would imagine, any fight that is properly marketed as ITV would. And what it means is that the days of sort of, that's the purse, and I've dealt with every big promoter, certainly in the UK, and most around Europe, and many in America. The days of the big guy saying, that's the purse, take it or leave it. Well, you can say take it or leave it, but the problem is now, whereas before there was nowhere else to go looking, because only really Sky had the big budget, like when you're looking at the big fights. Now you've got, like I say, BT Sport, you've got ITV. It's looking like the dynamic is changing, is shifting. And I'm not saying that Sky are close to not being the biggest pay-per-view seller, but I think it's very dangerous for them not to take into account the fact that there are more TV outlets now for pay-per-view. And for example, DILLIAN WHYTE, who began actually boxing on my shows, and I've obviously for that reason, you could tell he was special. DILLIAN WHYTE, he was very fast for a big guy, very agile, good mover, and a ferocious puncher. And I think they need to make the Dillian White fight. I mean, when I saw when White knocked out Chisora, stunning knockout, which I was pleased to see him get that knockout from a marketing point of view, because the win against Joe Parker was fairly inconclusive. I mean, if that was a 13-round fight, White probably would have got beaten. I'm not saying I'm calling for Joseph Parker to come back, because Joseph Parker's had 2 shots at the title now, and really he's sort of fizzled in both of them. So I don't have a great amount of belief left in Joseph Parker, or interest in seeing him getting more chances without deserving them. I mean, he came straight out of the defeat to Joshua to fight White again on pay-per-view. I want to see Parker really do something exceptional and much better than what he's done before I spend a penny on pay-per-view watching him. If they don't make the fight with White now, I think, okay, so Fury and Wilder fight each other. If they don't make the fight now with White, I think there's a big chance that White goes and fights the winner of that. And if that happens, I think Joshua will lose credibility. People will lose interest in him, because they will gain interest in fighters basically that AJ would look at probably as they're the B-side. You know, they've got to come to him and offer. And whenever I've heard Frank Warren speaking about it, it always seems to be about, give us a split. We want, basically they want 50%, whether they get 50%. I mean, but they want a split of the money. They don't just want a flat purse. That's your money. And that's totally right. I mean, that's what they've got. But if the fights aren't happening, which they're not, have they just been offered a flat purse? Have they been offered a ridiculously low percentage in the split? Because what's happening is the Joshua fights are not happening. I can understand the attraction for Matchroom to make the Big Baby Miller fight, because he's American, but Big Baby Miller isn't a huge name in America. He's a smaller name than Wilder. He isn't the sort of guy that everyone's going to get excited and automatically pay for a pay-per-view. I just know they're not going to, and he's not at that level. So although it would give the DAZN deal like an American fighter, it's not an American fighter that everyone's familiar with, that everyone's dying to watch box again, that there's a huge demand for. He's not exactly a manufactured fighter, but I do think his record flatters him, and I do think that he needs more big wins and big performances against credible opposition. Because if you look down the record, okay, the last few fights, there's a lot of people in there with their records that flatter them. Bogdan Dinu, Thomas Ademic, I'd say the right time to fight him. Johan De Hoppus, again, the right time to fight him. Marius Vach, the right time to fight him. Gerald Washington, puffed up record. I want to see, if we're going to go with Big Baby Miller, I want to see Big Baby Miller fight a live heavyweight contender and win impressively, and then yes, let's put him in with Joshua, and that would attract the attention. But I think at the moment it's not there, and I think if they don't give White the fight, if they don't make this fight with Dillian White probably go and do a deal himself, the way that Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder have. And then, okay, who is Joshua then going to go with? I mean, if you look down the heavyweights, you've got like Povetkin. I actually thought that was a good fight with Povetkin. Povetkin gave him Joshua a load of problems. Kobrat Pulev, Luis Ortiz, Dominic Brazil. Do they want to bring him back? I mean, I can't see people falling over themselves to watch that. You've got Adam Konowski, but I think he is another one that needs developing before you pitch him in. He looks like a good fighter. Why are you going to take a risk of fighting a good fighter who hasn't yet really shown himself to the general public? Because like we're saying, the buys of pay-per-view boxing are normally the casuals. They want to buy people they've just seen knock someone out, and that's Dillian White. That's Dillian White, and that's why I think it's funny that Dillian White knocks out Chisora. AJ just happens to be in the audience. They have a bit of, but it was very badly received by the public, which is why I think it's sort of now they're sort of taking different angles on how to publicise it. But the more I think about it, the more I think the fight that's going to be made is White. I don't think they're going to make Big Baby Miller. I think they're going to publicise Big Baby Miller first, then make the Dillian White fight first and then fight Big Baby Miller after a good win. Please hit the subscribe button and see you again on the Hellraiser blog.